Sounds good.
Hi everyone, it's Winnie here from the Clinic Project, and joining me today is Norelle, who's an HR consultant from HR for Health Leaders. Norelle has done a masterclass for us before in our coaching cohort, and I really love the work that she does. And so recently she's sharing a really excellent resource with us, looking at the employment model, how to calculate, like it's a calculator. I'll let her explain this, but it's a calculator that looked at, between casual and permanent employment, like what is the comparisons and how to calculate so that we know the entitlements to give to our staff. And so I will let her share her resource in here and showcase, the back end of it. Yeah, so you can take away, Norelle. Thank you.
Hi. All right. So, as a little brief intro, so basically, I've been running HR for Health Leaders for about 4.5 years now. And I've always had a career in HR, so I've been doing HR for about 14 years. And I actually helped run a remedial massage clinic with my partner at the time. So we ran that for about 4.5 years. So I've got a little practical flair for how a clinic operates. So this is something that I put together because I found I like numbers and not everyone likes numbers. And I found that people really struggle to figure out how they're going to work out profitability for their clinic space. So I've shared this with a bunch of clients and they really liked it. So I thought I'd bring that along today. So I'll just share my screen. And I apologize if you don't love spreadsheets, but I've tried to keep it simple-ish. So basically in yellow, you've got instructions at the top, and then each of the yellow cells are the cells that you need to enter information into. So I've pre-filled this a little bit today to make it a little bit simpler, but we'll run through it as we go. So basically in the first table here, you've got the pay rates directly out of the Health Professionals and Support Services Award. And this is based on the current pay rates. These will change on the 1st of July 2024. So if you're using this beyond that, then this table will need updating. And then here I've just got a little breakdown of which level and pay point people would be at. So I was going to use level 1 pay point 3 today. Is that, which would be like a graduate who did a 4-year degree or a graduate that did a 3-year degree after they have 1 year experience. Would that be all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep. Yep. Easy. So I've just got a little tab here with physio calcs. So basically, I'll just start with the pay rates. So in here, I've just put in the relevant pay rate for a level 1 pay point 3. This is the Monday to Friday rate, the weekend rate, and the overtime rate, just straight out of the tables. And you can see here, I've just said the level 1 pay point 3. So the first thing we need to look at is their roster. I've just made this up, so hopefully this is something feasible. Otherwise, we can work on something different. But in this example, I've said they work alternate Saturdays for a 4.5 hour shift. 1 week they're doing sort of a late evening shift, and the other week they're working and a half day on a Monday. Does that look?
So
You happy to run with that, Winnie?
yeah, they do around 38 hours per week.
Yeah, yeah. So I've worked this out to be 76-hour fortnight, so exactly 38-hour week, so full time. I've just sort of spread it on days. It doesn't really matter too much. But basically here you'll see I've put in, they've got a 30-minute unpaid break because they get a unpaid meal break under the award. If you were running a different break, like you can put that in. So essentially this is 8.5 hours of work on this Tuesday, excluding the unpaid meal break. Now, for this purpose, I've assumed that if you're doing a 40-minute treatment and you've got 5 minutes between clients, would that be about average?
We normally do back to back, but
Yeah,
that's for my clinic. So we normally do 40 minutes back to back.
yeah,
On average, it's sort of 40 to 45 normally
yeah,
in the clinics that I coach.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, and we don't put breaks in between each. Massage
yeah,
clinic, like for massage, you have like 10
they
minutes.
do.
But
Yeah,
normally, I think like physio, osteochiros, and most of
and to
the
work
other
back to
ones don't
back.
go back to back. And then
Yeah,
maybe they have a 10 minutes break like every 5 patients or 4 to 5 patients.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Um, that I think that still works for this. So essentially, I've said, 8.5 hour shift, you could see 10 45-minute sessions. That would be about, I think that's about right. No, that doesn't sound right.
So we have a calculator for to look at max cap, to look at how many consults that we can.
Mm,
And normally the way that I look at it is, let's say rostered hours 38,
Hmm.
I go times 60, which is for the whole week,
Hmm.
minutes, we minus the breaks each day. So like, for example, the 30 minutes breaks times
Yeah.
four. We also minus admin hour, training hour.
Hmm.
So the billable hours would be whatever that's after that. And then that billable hour, let's say 38, normally the person end up billable hours around 34 to 35.
Okay.
And then we divide it by the duration of the consult, which is, let's say, 40. So
Yeah.
that works out like the overall maximum consultation if they're running on 100% utilization.
Yeah. So if we worked off of roughly 34 hours of billable time, and in this I've already worked it on 45 minutes. That would, no, that's not right. 0.75. That would be 45 treatments a week roughly.
That sounds
And
about right. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
we're, yeah, 85% utilization of that will be
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
realistic. Yeah.
Yeah. So in here, this has worked out to be about 91. So yeah, I guessed about right. That's good. Okay. We'll keep those figures in there. So there's two ways you could do this, right? So the way I've done this is I've put in actually the number of treatments that are practically available to do in a shift that is this length. And then down the bottom here, there's a little formula that adds up all of those in this cell here. There's a formula that adds up the number of available shifts. But if you've got your own method where you're saying like, okay, there's 34 hours and this many treatments, you could also just put the number in here rather than calculating it per shift. If you know it's 45 per week available, then you can also plug that in to make it simpler. So either way will work. Um, so let me just check my little instructions so I can make sure you follow along. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we put in the pay rates and then, okay. So this now is essentially calculating, because you've got a different pay rate for a weekend compared to Monday to Friday. So this is what's calculated here. And I've also put in an overtime column just in case anyone's got anyone doing more than 38 hours a week. I don't know if is it very common? I wouldn't think so.
No, it's not. It's
No,
not. No,
no,
I
I
don't know.
wouldn't have thought so.
But is the
Um,
overtime rate the same than the weekend?
it is the same. The difference is you don't have to pay superannuation on overtime.
Okay, good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you only have to pay superannuation on ordinary hours, which is up to 38 hours a week. So you can choose to pay it, but there's no obligation. And normally the way like Xero is set up, it won't automatically calculate it unless you tell it to calculate it on overtime hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, so in these calculations, if you actually put in any overtime hours, the superannuation won't increase because it won't count it. The annual salary also, so when you take leave, you only get paid for your ordinary 38 hours. So if someone was rostered to work, well, this I should say this depends on how you set up a salary. But let's say that you pay someone a salary and then occasionally they work an additional Saturday, so you pay them overtime for that Saturday. You don't have to pay them that overtime when they take leave at the end of during the year,
Yep.
because you just pay them the salary. So, and you don't pay them leave loading on top of um, on their overtime.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
yeah, yeah. It's a bit complex when you sort of jump in halfway through and don't explain everything from the start.
Yeah,
So,
that's okay. And well, any
yeah,
questions people can ask in the comments. But yeah.
absolutely. So maybe that's all. I'll preface that. So when you think about making a salary that covers the minimum amount payable under the award, you've got to calculate what they get paid for the actual hours they work. So this is like this value here. And then if you're providing a uniform, so like a branded t-shirt, you technically have to pay a laundry allowance under the award. It's like $1.49 a week. It's not much. But technically your salary needs to cover at least their wage, their laundry allowance. And when people take annual leave, if you're paying the award, you have to pay 17.5% additional for the 4 weeks when they're on annual leave. So you need to build that into the minimum salary that you're paying them. So that's sort of what this calculation does. And then it just spits you out a number that says this is the minimum annual salary you would have to pay someone based on this roster up here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is really useful because like sometimes well, most of the time, I think in Sydney especially, you pay way above awards rate.
Mhm. Yeah,
So then, but it's good to know like what is the
what
rate set.
absolutely.
That will at least cover everything and that we don't have to do all the loading and stuff like that separate as well.
Yeah,
Okay. In
absolutely. And also, if you've got someone more senior, so this is, a grad with a 3-year degree with
yeah,
1 year's experience, or a grad with a 4-year degree starting out. So obviously, if you've got more experienced people, then this minimum value here is going to be higher as their experience grows.
yeah, well, you'll see like in Sydney rates at the moment, like a new grad, it's way above this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Not surprised. So
way above this, but yeah,
yeah,
it's good. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, this isn't.
Would you in contracts when you because you're an HR in contracts when you're actually giving the employment contract,
Mhm,
would you specify like a table like this is really clear on
mhm.
what that you have met the minimum entitlement. And so when you
Yeah.
go, especially when you present something that is like above awards rate, with a better overall clause, would you then
Yeah.
include that actually in the contract as well, or is it too much of an overkill?
It's probably an overkill.
Because I
And
like numbers.
I know, but part of the reason I would say it's an overkill is sometimes you then have people that don't understand, or they're a little bit too smart for their own good sometimes. So let's say you put this in there and then the minimum wage increases in July each year. So let's
Yeah.
say the minimum wage increases your salary by $3,000 a year, but you're already paying them $80,000 a year. Now, you don't actually have an obligation to increase their salary because you're still paying them, in this case, $20,000 above award. But if you put that in there, they might then look at it and be like, oh, so that calculation's increased. So can you now increase my salary by $3,128 or
Yeah.
whatever so sometimes it's better to not specify. But I guess if you ever had someone who was really curious to make sure they were definitely getting paid more than the award, you might share it. But realistically, you can look in the award and, the minimum salary is outlined there for a whole, like I think it's specified on a weekly basis. You can times that by 52 and say to them, look, the award says the minimum salary it's probably about 55, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. Before you add in like the weekend rate and the laundry allowance and the leave loading. So it's pretty easy to demonstrate to a potential employee that, significantly above the award. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then here this is more for like clinic owner purposes. I've added in like the value of the superannuation on that, an approximate value of the workers' compensation premium. So that's just calculated at like 1.65%. Every state's a bit different, so people might have a slightly different figure, but that's to give you an idea. And then so basically your total annual cost for that person, including those, the on cost basically for the business. So um, that all makes sense.
That makes sense. And now I'm
Perfect.
looking over to your casual, and it looks very similar in terms of the
Yeah,
total cost.
yeah, the casual is basically the same. That's probably a good point. So obviously the rates are higher, but here where I've done the annual wage, I only work it off of 46 weeks a year. And
Yeah,
that's on the assumption that if they took 4 weeks leave and there's probably 2 weeks worth of public holidays they don't work and sick leave that they would take and don't get paid for. So you can see at the end of the year, they're getting roughly the same. It's about $1,000 difference. But a lot of people are hesitant to swap from casual to permanent because they think they're going to get paid more, but they don't really think about the fact that they will lose, like that they lose weeks of pay per year because they're not at work.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it's a little bit the same for contractors, right? Like if you were going to do this comparison for a contractor, you'd be saying, um, you know, on average, this person gets $1,000 a week, but really they get $1,000 a week for 46 weeks of the year, not for 52 weeks. Yeah.
Especially with contractors, if there is that fluctuation in patient numbers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. So this bit's a bit fun. So hopefully we can follow along.
Ooh, you froze a little bit.
Right. Okay. Um, hopefully my internet's good. It might be a little bit dodgy. Um, okay, so here we've got a lot of this is formulas. So you really need to pay attention to the yellow cells, which is where like insert your data here, basically. And everything else is sort of automatically calculated unless you want to play with calculations. So here we've got it saying as above, they're working 76 hours a fortnight. So you could use this for a part-timer as well, for example. That's where the roster bit comes in handy, and then you can see it'll just add up how many hours they're doing if they're not doing 76. And then from the calculations about the available hours, it's pulling that we've got 21 available treatments scheduled over the fortnight. Oh, 21, 91, God, losing my numbers. And I know you said you guys normally try and aim for about 85% of appointment slots being booked. Yeah. So that would give us about 77 completed treatments on average for a fortnight. Um, I've put in an average spend of about 130. Is that around,
50-ish normally,
pardon?
around 150.
For a 45-minute treatment?
Yeah, so similar because yeah, our initials are a lot higher as well. So like when
Yeah.
to that,
Yeah. And so um and this is probably a good point, right? Like you could go through and look at your actual average spend of clients. But it's probably easier for the purposes of this because I know like sometimes you might do a 30-minute or a 40-minute. Your initials are more expensive than your standard appointments. Um, so this isn't going to be like absolutely perfect, but if you know that 75% of your treatments are 45 minutes and they are $150 each, you can just sort of ignore the fact that you've got some, initial appointments that are an extra $20, for example. This will be close enough.
mm,
Um, so as you can see, the little updates all the formulas. So you've got fortnightly revenue, potential annual revenue, which actually, which is, let me update that. So what did we say? Oh no, that was right. Yep. 23 fortnights a year. So that would be, 46 weeks a year because you're taking out about 6 weeks worth of time that they're not working.
yeah,
So then we've got their annual wage, including their super. Um, and basically, this is showing, so this depends on if you're talking including or excluding super. But here we've basically got this showing that their annual wage, including super, as a percentage of the annual revenue that they would bring in if they were 85% booked,
yeah,
is 24% in this example, based on award calculations.
including super. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
So if you said that you wanted their total wages to be 40%, and so we can change this. So if you see in this cell, we've got like a formula that's saying if it was 40% and they already got paid 24%,
Yep.
how much would we pay them as a bonus? So it would be 16%, which here gives you 16% of their revenue is $42,000 on
Yep.
top of the salary they already earned. So, and then I've just backtracked it here. So you've got the bonus payable with this and then separated out from what they actually get paid in the super. So then
Yep.
the total remuneration would be 100,000 in this example, which would be 58,000 salary and 38,000 bonus. That doesn't add up, does it? That doesn't
That's
sound right.
correct. Is
Oh, no, because,
it super?
yeah, no, this is adding the wrong thing. Oh no, that's right. 58. Oh
So
yeah,
basically,
plus 40
like, yeah. So when we look
plus
at
this
like
one.
staff
There we
remuneration
go.
package, we normally give them two options. It's like either you choose the base, like you choose the set salary, and
Mm-hmm,
let's say that is like 85 grand, or you
mm-hmm,
choose a base plus commission.
mm-hmm,
And then the commission rate. So normally in my clinic, the commission rate will continue to raise after
mm-hmm,
a certain wage per hour. We then don't continue to raise that. We then go into the base plus commission and we continue to raise the base plus commission.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then to a certain rate, and then we stop. So
Yeah,
it's like the whole pay progression for us. And
yeah,
so sometimes in that transition, in let's say year three, when this transition happens, for therapists, it's like really confusing for them. And I need to actually present the figures of
yeah,
okay, earning like let's say 250,000 or like let's say here 266,000,
Yeah.
what is it? What is the difference between like this like set
Mhm.
salary versus,
Yeah.
and then they'll be like, oh, okay, I understand now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, for example, in here, you could change this. So at the moment, this annual salary is just automatically copying the minimum under the award. But let's say you wanted to say, okay, I'm going to pay $80,000 a year. Um, no, that won't work. Let me readjust this. Sorry. All right. Yeah, there we go. That works now. So if we say that, that also doesn't work. There we go. Okay, that will work now. So if we say that we've changed their annual salary to be 80,000, which you can see is like $20,000 more than the award, that means their wages is now coming in at about 33% cost, and so the commission is working out to be 7. So you still end up with this bonus payable to come up with a total remuneration of 96 plus super. Um, yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is based off wanting to pay them 40%.
Yes, yeah. And you can adjust that. So in here, in this cell here, you could literally change this to be like 45% and it will just readjust. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
because of the conversation between us. So I think for us, like in my like coaching cohort, we want wages, practitioner wages, inclusive of super, to be around 40% of billings. So
Yeah.
I think that's why you took the 40%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll just put that there. So I'll just update that. I'll send you this like updated version. So it's as good as we talk through it. So if you basically just change this cell here, it will change this calculation. So we'll
Yeah.
do it that way. And then it's easy for people to see what they need to plug in somewhere. So there we go. Yeah. And then down the bottom, I've basically just given an example and said, okay, if there were only 75% booked,
Mm.
what does this now do to your revenue and to their earning potential? Because I know that sometimes people, are either struggling to get there or they think that, they don't quite comprehend the difference in just a small shift in how well booked their therapists are. So I just thought I'd throw that in there as an example. And it's basically the same calculation as above, but worked off of 75%. And then it flows through to, losing about 30 grand in revenue and then losing about 15 grand in commission as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
So I'll just update these to be the same as the above bit so that they work out correctly because then they're a bit off at the moment now.
That's fine. That's fine. And yeah, so this is really good. And then so the other side for the casual is the same, isn't it? That you
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah. So basically, I'll have to update these as well.
Mm.
But what this might look like is obviously you're not going to offer an annual salary for casual, but you might look at it and go, okay, if I was willing to pay like this much to this person, say like the example being $80,000 salary, if I worked that out to an hourly rate, I'd be paying, oh, why did that not work? That doesn't sound right. No, by 26. There we go. It's about $40 an hour. So rather than paying like 32 on weekdays and 36 on weekends, you might just say we're going to pay you a flat rate of $40 an hour because that's roughly equivalent to what you'd be paying your salaried workers.
Yeah.
So I might actually I'll rejig this side a little bit to add in like a little hourly rate comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect. Good.
yeah,
Are you able to explain a bit with your pay rate tables as well? I really liked it. Like when you
yeah,
show tables and the different entry points and how you progress and how
yeah,
you worked out that for someone to keep progressing, it takes 6.5 years. So
yeah,
keep
yeah.
going.
So um, so assuming you've got full-time staff, because I think most physios are full-time, unless you're, I don't,
Part-time, like part-time for full-time. I think a lot of the younger generations also like to come in and do part-time work.
interesting. Okay, yeah.
There's a whole
Um,
conversation in there.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, it's pretty common that like mums and stuff want to work part-time as well, but it's interesting that you have newer grads choosing less hours. They're choosing lifestyle over money, essentially.
Yeah, or they're choosing other ways of earning the money. The days
Ah,
that they're not working in healthcare. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
interesting.
different goals, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't
So
it?
basically, the award says that for you increase a pay point when you're in level one, which is like entry level, initial years of experience, is sort of what it's described as. You increase a pay point for each year of full-time experience or each 1,824 hours if you're casual or part-time, which is basically the equivalent of a year.
Is this
Um,
like this guideline is in the awards?
it's in the award, yeah, yeah. Um, and so essentially, you start based on your qualification. So you can see here, like, this is just a little summary. So if you had a bachelor degree that took 3 years versus 4 years, versus if you did a master's or a PhD. So, chiros and stuff are sometimes starting higher than a physio. And like a massage therapist, for example, they're normally diploma qualified, so they start back at pay point one.
Mm.
And then each year of full-time experience, they increase a pay point until they get, there's 6 pay points in level one. So if you're starting at pay point three, working full-time, you're going to go 4, 5, 6. So by year four, you would be a level two employee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then once you're in level two, it's not mandatory that you increase a pay point. The award sort of says if you having regard to the acquisition and use of new skills and experience. So, I'm not sure how you would define that for physios. Like maybe you're a general physio and then you go and do like a women's health specialization, um, 5 years into your career, then you'd probably progress a pay point within level two. But if you've already maxed out and you're just doing the same and you're not changing anything, then you could sit at level two, pay point one technically.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people come in. Okay, I think in private practice, a lot of them actually stay at level two until
Mhm.
they take a leadership role. Then it's level three. But normally,
Absolutely. Yeah.
practice
Yeah, absolutely. You
one
don't, yeah,
for yeah.
yeah. You need
Can
to
I
have
just
response.
that way a bit so that we can see read the
Oh, yeah, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I would say to someone, unless you've got someone who has like a leadership role in your business, and that means more like I wouldn't say someone who's like a senior physio and potentially is mentoring us like more junior
That will be level two.
practitioners.
So
I would say still level two. Yeah. Yeah.
level three is leadership skills, other skill set outside of healthcare professional that they need
Yes.
to upskill on, then
Yeah.
that's level three. Yeah.
Yeah. More like practice management, more like actually running budgets and managing people rather than just like providing mentorship and guidance to more junior professionals. Yeah, absolutely. So it's unless you've got a bigger practice with someone sort of taking a more management type.
Like a clinic manager, like if you have the leadership team, you have the clinic manager, the practice manager. So normally
Yeah.
practice manager is a non-clinical
Is an
role.
admin staff member. Yeah. Yeah.
Person. Have a clinic manager will have to be someone with clinical skill set as well.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so we have traditionally have, for example, really promising younger physios that come in
Hmm.
with the leadership traits that we
Hmm.
want to then progress them into that leadership
Yeah.
role. And
Yeah.
so they might not be the seniors, but then they actually took on extra responsibilities.
Ah, yeah.
So they
Yeah.
will progress a lot faster in that
Yeah.
sense because of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah.
So
Is
that is
that
pretty clear. So that if you go down a little bit where you worked out the like that is really clear for me in terms of like the
yeah.
progress um
Yeah.
and how long it take to actually progress in each one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say like for my practice, looking at that, I would definitely think that I have progressed people a lot faster than what they actually told.
Yeah.
Yeah, according to the
Yeah.
award. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
of the pressure of keeping staff or the pressure of
Yeah.
yeah, keeping
And,
staff.
and that's actually a really good point because I've had sometimes and I'll talk about massage therapists because they're more inclined to pay the award because their profit margins are much lower. They don't tend to pay a lot more than the award rates, whereas physios, it's very different. But it wouldn't be unusual for a client to say to me, oh, this person's a graduate, so they're level one pay point one. But I want to pay them level one pay point three,
Mm.
roughly that sort of rate. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you don't need to say that they're level one pay point three. You just pay them more. So sometimes people incorrectly inflate the level they're classifying them as when they should just pay them above the award.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder because once you
Yeah.
make that, you can't go backwards on someone.
No. And then you have the issue that if you end up with someone complains that they're being underpaid and you go to Fair Work and you've told them that they're a level two and they're actually a level 1.3 and you're trying to pay them a level 1.3, then, you've got a bit of a problem. So,
And
yeah.
so you would also think that in contracts, we should always specify the level that they're in. Yeah.
There's a requirement under the award to stipulate their level. It's actually written in there that you have to tell them in writing what their level is. Yeah. So you do need to do that in your contract. And then once you're paying above award, you've then got your set off clauses that are saying that they're better off overall in comparison to the award. And if you're doing salaries, you also want to make sure that the set off clause is let me get this right. It's like a salary at common law. So, and this is a bit technical, but in the award, there's an ability to create an annualized wage agreement.
Yeah.
But what an annualized wage agreement does is it places an obligation on you to track all of their hours of work, which is probably not a problem. And at the end of every year, or when they leave their employment, you have to check that you paid them more than the award by calculating exactly what you would have paid them under the award, which, unless you have a really nice HR system, is
That sounds
very administratively burdensome. Um,
yeah.
that provision does not preclude you from still having what we would call like a set off provision under common law, which basically means inside your contract, not using the award provision. So you probably have this already, but some people accidentally will write in the contract that this is an annualized wage agreement under the award
Yeah.
when it should say this is an annualized salary and we are able to set off all of the the above award payments that we pay you in compensation for everything that we would otherwise owe you under the award, in more legal speak than that, obviously.
This is interesting because I actually haven't heard of that term.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, hopefully it's not in our contracts.
No. No, you probably have a set off. I know you've used the word set off, so yours is probably fine. But the annualized wage thing was brought in a couple of years ago in the awards. So it's a sort of new thing, and it's not a bad thing, but it's just really annoying. And there's an ability to
A
do
lot
it
of
in your
admin work.
contract.
Yeah,
Pardon?
it's a lot of admin work.
It is. And I guess the reason the commission probably put it in the award was to and it's in all awards or most awards, was probably to make sure that people that are marginally paid more than the award are not getting undercut.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, if you know you're paying, example, $20,000 more than the award,
Yeah.
they would have to work 20 hours of overtime a week to ever get anywhere near not earning enough, for example. So you're safe. But if
Yeah.
you're only paying $2,000 more than the award and occasionally they work overtime and you don't pay them extra for it, you've got to be really careful. Yeah.
Which is why your calculator is really good for that. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That is great. Thank you so much. I think yeah, this is really clear and it provides like when I read this the first time, I was like, oh, okay. Now it all makes sense. And the fact that it's laid out so well, and then with the calculator as well, you can really play around and plug and play. The numbers makes it really easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The resource is going to be so basically, if you're interested to get the resource, just comment below and we'll send you the links. And if there is any I'll email you guys a version as well. And if there are any updates and stuff like that, like I'm happy for Norelle to just make a post about it and
Yep.
Norelle answer all the questions down below as well. If you guys have any questions for that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for the resource as well, Norelle. It's very,
Very
very cool.
welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Great. Bye.